Another glorious morning in the realm of chaos, or is it evening? Hard to tell when the sky is a roiling psychedelic swirl and the concept of time is flexible. Not that it matters. Here, dawn breaks not with sunlight, but with the chorus of distant screams and delirious laughter echoing across the twisted vistas of the warp. And I wake to these sounds the way you might wake to the chirping of birds. Charming, isn't it? I stretch languidly, figuratively speaking, of course. My limbs today are shaped like those of a lithe predator, ending in elegantly curved claws. Yesterday I wore a different form, quite literally. One does tend to change one's look often in service of the Prince of Pleasure. Perhaps tomorrow I'll sprout wings or a few extra arms. Variety is the spice of afterlife, after all. For now, I look every bit the classic demon of Slaanesh. Tall, graceful, horrifically beautiful in a way mortal minds struggle to comprehend, with a sly grin fixed upon my lips. It's going to be another exquisite day. You might think that existence as a servant of the Dark Prince is an endless carnival of delight. I let out a dry laugh at the thought. In some ways, you'd be right. Excess, indulgence, ecstasy, agony, these are our bread and wine. But even in a timeless realm of infinite sensation, one can develop a routine. Yes, we have those. Even creatures of utter chaos can fall into familiar patterns. Wake up, such as it is, drink in the ambient suffering like a morning cup of recaf, sharpen the claws, polish the horns, and figure out what flavor of experience to chase next. Eternity is long. One must keep things interesting, lest ennui set in. There's no horror quite like boredom, trust me. Stepping outside my current abode, a quaint little pleasure den fashioned from living, breathing flesh, the walls literally sigh in delight when you touch them, I take in the sights. The landscape of Slaanesh's realm never disappoints. In every direction, impossible shapes and colors bloom like a psychedelic garden. Marble columns twist and melt into heaving organic masses. Sensuous melodies waft from unseen sources, intertwining with screams of ecstasy and anguish until you can't tell one from the other. The very air is perfumed with 100 intoxicating scents: jasmine, blood, burnt sugar, tears, and things for which mortals have no name. It's overwhelming, yes, but deliciously so. Sensory overload is just the morning breeze around here. I glide along a path of crushed jewels and broken bones. They crunch so pleasantly underfoot. Around me, other denizens of the Dark Prince's realm go about their own business. A pack of lithe demonettes sashays past, their laughter like tinkling glass. They are fresh from the hunt, dripping in gore and sweet perfumes, comparing trophies plucked from their latest victims. One waves a severed head whose face is locked in an expression of horrified rapture, an artful little mosaic of terror and bliss. I give them a polite nod as they pass. Lovely morning, isn't it? I purr. They dissolve into giggles. Yes, even here we observe some courtesies. Across a pink-tinged canal of something that looks like liquid pleasure given form. Don't ask me to explain that one. Mortal language lacks the nuance. A lumbering fiend of Slaanesh laps at the waters with its barbed tongue, shuddering in delight with each sip. I chuckle quietly at the sight. That particular pet has been there for ages, hopelessly addicted to the flavor. Can't blame it. I remember spending a decade or two wallowing in that very canal during my early years. We've all been through that phase. I almost stumble over something writhing underfoot, a pulsating heap of flesh and half-formed limbs that mules pitifully as my clawed foot nearly squashes it. Ah, a chaos spawn. Once upon a time, that was a mortal, or maybe a wayward demonette, who sought too much from the Prince of Pleasure and lost themselves in the process. Now it's just a mindless lump eternally caught between ecstasy and agony, without a coherent thought left in its mutated head. Tragic in a way, but also terribly amusing. It gurgles up at me with what might be either supplication or an attempt at a song. Hard to tell with only half a mouth. I sidestep the wretch carefully, no need to get spawn goo on my legs this early in the day, and continue on my way. Not everyone can handle what we have to offer. All in all, it's a rather idyllic start to my day of damnation. Still, something's missing. Ah yes, breakfast. The ambient emotions in the air are flavorful, but I crave a more substantial morsel to begin the cycle. Fortunately, options abound. Nearby, a cluster of indentured souls is on display, the remnants of mortal playthings kept alive far beyond their time by Slaanesh's will. They hang suspended in fleshy cocoons from a twisted obsidian tree, moaning softly in a haze of unending ecstasy and agony. A dutiful lesser Daemon, some slug-like attendant with far too many arms, tends to them, siphoning off excess emotional energy like a vintner tapping a cask. He gives me a courteous nod as I approach, gesturing to an array of crystalline vials filled with swirling iridescent liquid. Distilled sensations, fear, joy, lust, despair, each one extracted from those human grapes on the vine. I peruse the selection. A good vintage of terror might be nice to cut the morning sweetness. I pluck a vial that shimmers midnight blue and hold it up to one black crystal eye. Within the essence writhes and whirls, perhaps the fear of a child in her final moments, or a soldier watching his squad devoured alive. Exquisite. With a toast to no one in particular, I uncork the vial and down it. The flavor hits me like a bolt of lightning. Icy, sharp, making every nerve of my being tingle. I shudder happily as the distilled fear slides down my immaterial throat and ignites in my core. A rich aftertaste of hopelessness. Perfect. I toss the empty vial back to the vendor, who catches it with one of his many hands and bows obsequiously. Compliments to the chef, I say breezily. He chitters something in response as I wipe a trickle of residual dread from my lips. Yes, that hits the spot. Sated for the moment, I continue on my stroll, feeling energized. A satisfied sigh escapes me. Sustenance, scenery, a bit of socializing with the locals, not a bad morning routine. If I were the journaling type, I'd probably jot down something like, "Dear Diary, today began with a lovely vintage fear and pleasant company." But a true connoisseur of experience never lingers too long in one state. The day, if you can call it that, is young, and there are always new thrills to chase. For a moment, I toy with the idea of venturing inward, toward the Dark Prince's own palace of pleasure, past the 6 concentric circles of temptation that guard his sacred domain. Each ring offers its unique delights and dangers. I've sampled them all before. The treasures of avidity, the feasts of gluttony, the passionate embraces of carnality, the power fantasies of paramountcy, the ego-stroking of vainglory, and that final lethal heaven of ultimate bliss. It's a wonderful pilgrimage of excess for another time. Why go chasing the ultimate thrill when, as it happens, a promising little diversion is about to come knocking? I'm contemplating my options for the day's entertainment. Perhaps join a masquerade of souls in the palace's grand amphitheater, or challenge myself to find a sensation I haven't felt before. A tall order after millennia, believe me, when I feel it. A tug, faint but insistent, at the core of my being. It's like someone plucking a harp string that resonates in my soul, humming, calling to me. I pause, tilting my head as if listening to a distant melody. Ah yes, there it is. Somewhere out beyond the immaterium, in the cold, hard world of mortals, a summoning is in progress. How quaint. Some intrepid little cult has decided to reach across the veil, mumbling incantations, spilling blood, and begging the Dark Prince for a boon. The echoes of their ritual ripple through the warp, a delicious mix of fervent desire, terror, and depravity. I can practically taste it from here. They're calling for a demon. For me. Well, not me by name. Mortals rarely know our names, and giving them out freely would spoil the fun. But they're certainly beseeching Slaanesh for a willing servant to answer. And who am I to refuse such a polite invitation? Especially when I'm feeling a bit peckish for some first-hand mortal mischief. It's not like this planet sits on some nice juicy warp rift, say the Great Rift. In fact, it's painfully stable space out there, so a proper ritual is needed to pull me through. Effort is always appreciated. I close my eyes and focus on the pull. The ritual words, though butchered by crude human tongues, form a nexus of energy I can home in on. I feel the barrier between worlds thinning at that locus, weakening enough to let something slip through. Time to make my grand entrance. With an exhilarated grin, I surrender to the tug and let myself be drawn toward the tear they've opened. Imagine, if you can, sliding your essence through a pinhole in reality. It's a tight squeeze, even for one as delightfully lithe as I. The fabric of real space resists, stinging and slicing at my being as I force my way in. It hurts in a way, like being flayed by a million tiny razors made of pure logic and reason. The laws of physics don't appreciate intruders, and they make their displeasure known. But pain is just another flavor of pleasure if you know how to savor it, and I do. I can't help but shiver in delight as the sting turns into a rush of euphoria. There's nothing quite like that first breach. The moment you violate reality's prime rules and slip inside. I hear myself purring as I emerge into the mortal world, anticipation thrumming in my black crystal eyes. On the other side, chalk sigils and flickering candlelight. I step out of thin air into a ritual chamber, perhaps a repurposed basement or forgotten chapel, its stone floor marked with a circle drawn in blood and powdered lapis. The air is thick with incense, a cloying perfume of myrrh and opiates, attempting and failing to mask the underlying odors of fear and sweat. Lovely ambiance, I must say. There's always a unique thrill to manifesting fully in the flesh. The air in real space feels denser, the sensations oddly muted compared to the warp's kaleidoscopic extravagance. But that's all right. It just means I get to break all its rules to spice things up. Now, I take stock of my summoners. There are 6 of them. How fitting. 6 is Slaanesh's sacred number, though I doubt they arranged it intentionally. They stand in a half-circle outside the glowing, blood-drawn summoning ring. Robes of midnight purple and black, embroidered with sigils they only half understand, drape over trembling bodies. Most are human, 3 men, 2 women, all young and gaunt-eyed with zeal. The 6th is, oh my, an Eldar. Yes, a lithe Aeldari degenerate mingling with human cultists. Her once ethereal features are now fever-bright and debauched. She must be truly desperate to be slumming it with these folks. How deliciously scandalous. On a crude stone altar at the center of the circle lies their offering. A 7th body, an Imperial citizen. Ex-citizen now, I suppose. He's quite dead, chest ritually carved open, heart neatly removed and placed in a silver bowl as a gift to the Dark Prince. The coppery tang of blood hangs thick in the air, mingled with the musk of narcotic incense and burnt hair. These people have gone all out to get my attention, it seems. I stand within the confines of their summoning circle, flexing each clawed finger one by one. The cultists stare, eyes wide as saucers. One man is smiling deliriously, tears running down his face in awe. Another looks like he might faint, swaying on his feet as though drunk on terror, or perhaps on the pheromones I exude. The Eldar among them watches me with a predatory hunger in her hot violet eyes. I suspect she craves what only my kind can grant, yet at the same time she harbors an ancient fear. Her soul knows exactly who I serve, the being her people call she who thirsts. Smart girl. For a long moment, none of them speak. They're probably surprised they actually succeeded. I could let them stew a bit, standing here wreathed in incense smoke, letting their fear and elation marinate. But where's the fun in that? Instead, I flash them my most disarming smile, just enough fangs showing to send a shiver down a spine or two. Well, I purr into the silence, my voice breaking it like a silk whip. You called, and I came. How can I indulge you, my dear children? A collective shudder ripples through the group at the sound of my voice. Sibilant, rich, and resonant, it hits their senses like a drug. I see pupils dilate, breath quicken. One acolyte, a skinny lad with scabbed lips, actually moans aloud and sinks to his knees, overcome by my aura, already peeling back the layers of his sanity. Lovely. At last, the lead cultist finds his tongue. A tall fellow in tattered finery steps forward, lowering the hood of his robe. His scalp is shaved and tattooed with a winding serpent sigil. Sweat beads on it as he musters what he thinks is a confident expression. I can smell the cocktail of emotions in him, the sharp citrus of fear, the honeyed musk of ambition, a whiff of lust. He's trying very hard not to show the fear part. "O great one, servant of Slaanesh," he begins, voice quavering only slightly. "We have summoned you to ask for your aid. We, the children of the violet dark," he gestures theatrically to his little assembly, "seek to cast off the oppressions of this world and embrace the freedom of eternal sensation. Our oppressors, the false, joyless authorities of this hive, must be toppled. With your power, we can turn this city into a paradise of pleasure, devoted wholly to the Dark Prince." His tone gains fervor as he speaks, rehearsed zeal overcoming dread. Ah, a revolutionary orgy in the making. How quaint and ambitious. These kids dream big. Still, stranger things have happened. I've witnessed entire civilizations drown in their own excess once the first few damn walls broke. Give mortals permission to indulge and they'll eagerly destroy themselves. Sometimes all it takes is a spark. In fact, there are whispers of a demon world out there that was born when a single hive city succumbed to an orgy lasting a century. Why not here? I tilt my head, considering. A city-wide playground of perversion would certainly please Slaanesh and me, and be tremendous fun besides. Of course, it will also paint a very large target on all their backs. The stuffy Imperium doesn't exactly let that sort of thing slide. But that's a concern for later. Right now, all their eyes shine with devotion at the vision he's painted. They're picturing streets of delirium, masses of citizens giving in to every impulse, a grand new order of indulgence. I can work with this. The leader takes a cautious step closer to the circle's edge. I notice he's careful not to cross the bloodline. They likely think it binds me. Adorable. With a polite smile, I also step forward, just inside the barrier, and meet his gaze. He's tall for a human, but I still have a head on him. "And what," I ask silkily, "do I receive in return for this generous assistance? You didn't drag me across the cosmos just for my sparkling company, did you?" I wink, and he blushes, the flush visible even in the dim candlelight. "We offer souls and devotion," the man proclaims, trying to sound bold. "The heart of this heretic." He gestures to the dead man on the altar, "and many more hearts to come. We will drown this hive in ecstasy and blood as an offering. All we ask is for your guidance, your strength to break those who would stop us. Together we will tear down the false idols of the corpse emperor." At that, the others behind him murmur fervent agreement. One woman practically vibrates with excitement. her eyes unfocused as if already envisioning the carnage to come. He's really giving it the full dramatic spiel, isn't he? There's a fanatic's fire in his eyes now. I do love enthusiasm. Tempting, I purr, tapping a claw to my chin as though pondering a weighty bargain. In truth, my mind is already racing ahead. This could be a splendid little outing. A whole hive city ripe for corruption. But first, I need out of this cute little circle. I could brute force it. These mortals would be very surprised how quickly their wards fail against a determined Daemon. But where's the style in that? Better to do it with a bit of flair. I lean forward ever so slightly and exhale. A gentle breath carrying just a hint of my warp spice and pheromone wafts over the lead cultist. His eyes glaze for a heartbeat, knees wobbling as desire and delirium momentarily swamp his senses. In that dazed moment, his boot inadvertently scuffs across the chalk line, just an inch, but enough. Our eyes meet, and I smile as sweetly as any saint. "Deal," I whisper, and I step right through the now broken circle. The man gasps, half in ecstasy, half in, "Oh fuck, what have I done?" panic. Pardon my low Gothic. Before he can decide whether to scramble back or fall to his knees, I catch him. One clawed hand, swift as a viper, gently grips his throat. Not choking, just holding him in place. His pulse thrums against my palm, wild and rabbit fast. I feel his terror spike again, sharp and delectable. The others recoil. A few yelps of alarm. One fellow even drops his ritual dagger with a clatter. I indulge in a low, rich chuckle. "Oh, don't be so dramatic," I coo, easing my grip slightly now that I've thoroughly startled them. "We're all friends here, aren't we? You wanted my help, and here I am helping. But understand this." I tighten my hold just enough that he winces, eyes bulging a tad. My voice drops to a silken growl. "I am no wish-granting sprite bound to your whims. We're partners in this lovely little uprising of yours, and partners treat each other very well. You'll get your city of decadence." I flash a grin over his shoulder at the others. "And I will gorge myself on the sublime fruits of your labor. Cross me, try to bind me, and our partnership will end poorly for you. Do we have an understanding?" He nods frantically, as best he can with my hand around his neck. Yes, of course, Great One," he rasps. "We live only to serve the Prince of Pleasure. And you?" "Marvelous." I release him with a flourish, patting his cheek, as though we've just sealed a perfectly cordial business deal. He stumbles back, gulping air, while I give a little stretch, as if to say that's settled. The other cultists relax marginally when they see I'm not about to tear their leader limb from limb, and that I am, in fact, smiling. It's a razor-edged smile, but hey, it's something. Truth be told, I'm rather pleased with them. They didn't immediately scatter or try something stupid. They're fearful, yes, but fanatical enough to hold their ground. This might just work out after all. "Now then," I say brightly, clasping my clawed hands together in a mockery of a schoolteacher addressing pupils, "let's discuss how we're going to turn this dull, repressed city into the hottest playground in the sector, shall we?" They lead me from the ritual chamber to a hidden alcove deeper in their lair, a repurposed storage cellar that serves as their headquarters. By the guttering light of lumen globes and candles, we huddle around a makeshift table strewn with parchments, maps of the hive, and several open bottles of Obscura, which at least 2 cultists swig liberally to steady their nerves when they think I'm not watching. Cute. It's a scene to warm a schemer's heart, wide-eyed mortals plotting rebellion in the dim glow of heresy. We spend the next while hashing out a plan. I must admit their ideas aren't half bad, naive in some areas, but that's why they have me. The core concept is simple: decapitate the hive's authorities in one swift night of bloodshed. then throw open the gates of indulgence so the populace may follow. Ambitious, yes, but audacity is the Dark Prince's favorite spice. I point a claw at their map, tracing pathways as I speak. First, we neutralize the Magistratum and Enforcers, the City Watch, your beloved killjoys in uniform. Take out their communications, armories, leadership. No law, no order, no problem. The cultists nod eagerly. They have insiders ready, discontented officers secretly among their ranks. Never underestimate the lure of forbidden pleasures to someone stuck in a thankless job. Next, cut down the preachers and propaganda. I tap a marked icon on the map, the Grand Chapel of the Emperor's Light, the largest temple in this district. As long as those droning priests are blaring about sin and punishment, some souls will hesitate to join the fun. So we silence the ecclesiarchy. Permanently. The Eldar woman grins fiercely at that. Clearly she has a special loathing for monolithic human religions. Can't blame her. I find them dreadfully boring myself. Finally, we light the spark of freedom. Here I sweep an arm wide over the map of the entire Hab block. You have caches of chems and amasec? Good. Distribute them freely. Spread the word among your allies, and any downtrodden workers or youths hungry for change. Tonight, the city belongs to them. Encourage revelry, chaos, every hidden desire let loose. Once the flame is lit, it will feed itself. As I speak, I feel the cultists' fervor rising to a fever pitch. They exchange hungry smiles, imagining the night to come. This is what they wanted, permission from a higher power to unleash their darkest fantasies. I'm all too happy to oblige. Plans set, we seal our pact in a way that would make any sane human lose their lunch. One of the robed devotees drags out a cask of sacramental wine, stolen from the local ministorum, ironically, and the still warm heart from their earlier sacrifice. At my instruction, they mix the heart's blood into the wine, creating a thick, dark sacrament. I infuse it with a drop of my own essence, a glistening bead of amethyst ichor drawn from a self-inflicted prick on my fingertip. The concoction swirls with prismatic light as my warp blood mingles with mortal fluids. They pass the chalice around, each cultist drinking deep. Eyes roll back as the mixture sends shudders of sensation through their frail bodies. To their credit, none balk at the taste, a cocktail of coppery blood and otherworldly sweetness that hits their senses like a hammer of bliss. By the time the cup returns to me, only a few drops remain. I tilt it to my lips and lick it clean with a forked tongue, making a satisfied smack. A little taste of myself. How delightfully narcissistic, how perfectly Slaaneshi. The effect on them is immediate. Their pupils dilate into black moons, breathing turns to panting. I can almost see the warp-kissed vigor coursing through their veins. One man spasms as newfound sensitivity racks him. He collapses against a wall, then breaks into euphoric laughter. Another claws at her own robe, tearing it open as if the fabric itself were burning her hypersensitive skin. Or perhaps she just feels too much and needs to scream. Both are acceptable reactions. The Eldar arches her back and lets out a strangled moan, experiencing a rush that even her people's notorious excesses never gave her. Good. They are feeling the Dark Prince's touch now, a fraction of it, and it binds them to me tighter than any chain. Go now, I murmur as they ride the waves of sensory overload. Each of you knows your part. Gather your arms, your allies. Tonight we orchestrate a symphony of chaos. I step back and watch with a proud smile as they scramble into motion, energized beyond human limits. Weapons are pulled from hidden caches, stolen autoguns, industrial saws repurposed as blades, a few esoteric items. A barbed lash here, some hallucinogenic grenades there. Faces that were taut with fear are now flushed with manic excitement. The cult leader, bless him, comes to my side one last time before we set forth. He's breathing hard, sweat and blood spattering his once fine collar, but his expression is reverent. "We will not fail you," he vows, voice trembling with devotion and intoxication. He looks as if he might fall to his knees and start worshipping me on the spot. Under other circumstances, I'd absolutely let him. Instead, I give his shoulder a companionable pat, leaving a red print where my claw still drips a bit of his comrade's blood. "Of course you won't," I purr. "This night is ours. Let's make it one to remember." And with that, we slip out into the oppressive, smoggy night of the hive, our little band dividing to fulfill each assigned task. In the distance, thunder rumbles, or perhaps it's the echo of war drums from the warp, anticipating the feast to come. My essence hums with anticipation. This is the calm before the sweetest storm. Under cover of the hive's artificial night, we move like wraiths through shadowed alleys and derelict manufactorum yards, a pack of predators on the hunt. The city around us is ignorant of what's coming, just another grimy night shift in a hive full of them. A few haggard shift workers and off-duty gangers cross our path. They shrink away at the sight of our armed group. Some mutter quick prayers and duck into doorways. Others just assume we're one more gang out to settle a score. If only they knew. The towering hab blocks overhead flicker with sickly neon signs and crackling vox speakers bleating propaganda about duty and purity. How deliciously oblivious the masters of this hive are, snug in their spire up above while we ignite rebellion in its bowels. It turns out, we have a knack for mayhem. In the hours that follow, I lead my eager little revolutionaries on a whirlwind tour of depravity through the hive's underbelly. We start small, a midnight visit to the local enforcer garrison. The poor guards never expect an attack from within, courtesy of a pair of cultists who had infiltrated their ranks and cheerfully slit their sergeant's throat when I gave the signal. We pour into the precinct proper in a tide of gunfire and whoops of delight. I waltz through the panicked enforcers like a dancer through rain, laughing as stubber, rounds, and last bolts hiss past me. A few find their mark, thudding into my flesh with sharp bursts of pain. Refreshing. I haven't been shot in ages. The survivors get treated to a glimpse of true terror. For a moment, I let them see my face clearly and allow the glamour shrouding my full glory to drop. To one man, I appear as the sum of all his secret lusts given perfect form. He drops his weapon and falls to his knees, sobbing in overwhelmed rapture. To another, I become a towering horned nightmare wreathed in purple flames. He loses control of his bladder and tries to crawl under a desk. I make sure each perceives exactly what will shatter them most. Without hesitation, I leap into the fray. A burly arbitrator with a shock maul charges me, bellowing something about duty. I pirouette past his clumsy swing and neatly separate his head from his shoulders with a single swipe of my claw. His headless body topples, arterial spray painting a pretty arc across the low ceiling. Around me, my cultists fall upon the stunned enforcers in a frenzy. Gunshots crack. A heavy stubber emplacement in the corner opens up, stitching a line of rounds across the room. One of my devotees is blown apart mid-charge, but another shrieks and hurls himself over the barricade, detonating a satchel charge that blasts the gunner to gory chunks. I weave through the brawl like it's a choreographed performance, every movement precise and lethal. A trio of armored officers forms a firing line and peppers me with last fire. Too slow. I'm upon them in a blink. The first man's prayer dies on his lips as my claws open him from collarbone to groin in a wet spill of innards. The second catches a flick of my barbed tail through the throat. He gargles and collapses. The third drops his weapon and begs for mercy, only to be trampled under the boots of the frenzied mob swarming behind me. It's all so beautiful. In minutes, the precinct is ours, awash in blood and screams. We paint the gray walls with colorful swaths of gore and graffiti sigils of Slaanesh for good measure. It's important to redecorate after a regime change. True to our plan, the next stop on our nightlife tour is the Grand Chapel of the Emperor's Light. It's a hulking pseudo-Gothic structure jutting up from the Hab like a pious tumor, all stained glass and marble gargoyles, a real landmark. We approach as if pilgrims on some midnight devotional, albeit pilgrims armed with stolen shotguns and dripping knives. The few pious citizens praying at this late hour don't realize the danger until we're already inside, and the heavy oaken doors boom shut behind us. The head priest, a rotund fellow bedecked in frothy vestments and a gilded aquila, rushes forward, sputtering outrage at the bloody, half-naked intruders defiling his sanctuary. "What is the meaning of—" he begins. Then he sees me striding in behind them, and the blood drains from his face as if someone opened an artery. I must cut quite a figure against the candlelight, because he staggers back into the lectern, toppling a massive tome of scripture. "Evening service is cancelled," I announce cheerfully, my voice echoing through the vaulted chamber. The acoustics make my purr positively thunderous. A few lesser priests and servitors poke their heads out from side alcoves to see what's happening. Poor things. One devout fool, perhaps an off-duty PDF trooper acting as volunteer guard, finds his courage and fires a last shot at me from near a pew. I lazily swat the bolt aside with the back of one clawed hand, and it scorches a black streak across a fresco of Saint Celestine on the wall. Rude, I sigh. Before he can fire again, one of our cultists, the quiet woman who had been vibrating with excitement earlier, pounces on him with a mad laugh. They tumble over a pew, and she drives her blade into his neck repeatedly, giggling as warm blood fountains up. The handful of congregants, what few were here at midnight, begin screaming and scrambling for any exit. Too late. My followers have already chained the doors from the inside. I vault onto the altar in a single bound, landing amidst golden candelabras and incense burners. The head priest raises a shaking hand, brandishing a silver aquila icon at me as if it were a weapon. "Back, demon, back in the Emperor's name," he croaks, trying to sound authoritative despite the quaver in his voice. Ah, the famous faith of imperial clergy, strong until it's truly tested. I give him an indulgent smile and step down off the altar, closing the distance between us in a heartbeat. "Which emperor would that be?" I ask sweetly. "The one whose eyes were plucked out when our dark prince was born? Or the one who sits blind and silent on Terra while I do as I please?" I cock my head. "Oh, right, they're the same one." He begins a litany, voice cracking. "Emperor, protect me from—" I move faster than human eyes can follow. One moment I'm listening politely, the next I'm inches from him, grasping his holy aquila. I tear the metal icon from his grip and, in the same motion, ram it into his open mouth mid-prayer. His eyes bulge as he chokes on his own sacred symbol. "Shh," I coo, holding it in place as he gurgles and paws helplessly at my wrist. "No more sermons. Your corpse god can't hear you over all the fun we're having." Behind me, the nave has descended into pure carnage, my cultists set upon the lesser priests and any unlucky faithful with frenzied zeal. Pews overturn, candles and lanterns are tossed to shatter against tapestries. Hungry flames climb the velvet draperies depicting the god emperor's benevolence, curling them into blackened mockeries. A young clergy aide falls to his knees, clutching a gilt-edged reliquary and sobbing prayers. The Eldar woman skips up to him, yanks his chin up, and plants a passionate kiss on his lips. As he gasps, she exhales a cloud of shimmering narcotic mist directly into his lungs. The young man convulses in sudden ecstasy, drugged out of his mind. He'll likely die with a blissful smile as fire consumes him, a merciful end of sorts. On the altar, the head priest struggles weaken as he suffocates on the aquila lodged in his throat. I release him at last and let his body thump to the marble floor. And down goes the last killjoy. I chuckle. One of the cultists, a lanky fellow splattered with someone else's blood, clambers up beside me and triumphantly smashes the altar's gilded lectern with a hammer. Above us, the great stained glass window depicting the Emperor himself shatters outward in a rain of multicolored shards as another cultist detonates a small charge at its base. The thunderous crash of glass is accompanied by our crew's delirious laughter and howls of victory. We depart the blazing chapel in a haze of smoke and victory, leaving behind a holy house turned charnel pit. The screams of the dying and the roar of flames spill out into the night, a warning and a promise to the city that the Emperor's protection is gone. From there, our ranks swell exactly as intended. News of the Enforcers' massacre and the chapel's defilement spreads like wildfire through the Underhive. We become a beacon for every soul hungry for chaos. Desperate factory drudges and indentured laborers creep from their hovels, lured by the intoxicating promise of freedom. Hive gangers and underhive scum emerge from their hidey holes, eager to turn turmoil into opportunity. Pleasure cultists from other hidden covens see their moment and join our orgy of insurrection. Through a mix of terror and temptation, a demonstration of my power here, a distribution of stolen stimulants there, our little cult blossoms into a horde. By the time the hive's artificial dawn would normally break, this district is unrecognizable. What began as a covert cabal has ignited a city-wide bacchanal. Exactly as promised, we've turned this bastion of imperial order into a playground of debauchery. Before long, our chaos spills into neighboring precincts as well. Those who initially hung back lose their last inhibitions when they hear the laughter and screams echoing from our quarter. Like fire-jumping hab blocks, the uprising spreads. Within a few hours, multiple districts of the lower hive are in open revolt, a chain reaction of indulgence and anarchy. The Imperium's grip on this night is utterly broken. It is beautiful in its own perverse way. The raw, unchecked freedom, the surging emotions, lust, fury, joy, despair, all mingling in a delirious haze. This is what the warp would look like if poured into the streets, pure human essence unleashed. The barriers between reality and the immaterium grow ever thinner with each passing moment of our revel. I feel a tension building, a drumbeat of power resonating through every scream and every moan. Surely the Dark Prince himself is watching us now, reveling in the spectacle. A warm drizzle begins to patter down on the plaza, dotting my skin. I inhale and catch the coppery scent on the air. Extending my tongue, I let a droplet fall on it. Ah, blood. It's raining blood. The warp is literally bleeding into the sky now. A shriek of mad laughter peals from somewhere above. It ripples through the crowd and I realize I'm laughing too, arms raised to the hemorrhaging heavens. Everything is escalating faster than even I anticipated. Marvelous. And of course, that's when the buzzkills arrive. I sense it moments before it happens, a spike of focused willpower slicing through the chaotic miasma of emotion. There, at the periphery of the revelry, moving toward us with grim purpose. Ah, Inquisitor. It was inevitable, really. You can't throw a party like this without drawing some official complaints. I see the interlopers now, a knot of figures in carapace armor pushing through the edges of the crowd. There are a few surviving enforcers, yes, but at their head strides a tall woman clad in a long dark coat bearing the scarlet eye of the Inquisition, Ordo Hereticus, if I'm not mistaken. Even without that insignia, I'd know what she is. The uncompromising posture, the aura of authority and fanaticism, the way panicked revelers actually part around her as if she carries an invisible shield of conviction. Oh yes, they sent a protector of the faith, a witch-finder, a hunter of my kind. She's brought friends, too. Flanking her, I glimpse the crimson and black power armor of at least 2 Sisters of Battle, their helmets off, eyes blazing with righteous fury, and more than a little disgust at the display around them. One of them murmurs prayers of absolution as she wades through a pile of writhing celebrants, her face twisted in repugnance. A squad of acolytes and armsmen fans out behind, gun-butting aside any crazed rioters in their way. They're horrified by what they see. I can taste the bitter tang of their outrage and revulsion, but they're disciplined, focused. I click my tongue. How inconvenient, just when the fun was hitting its peak. My cultists notice the interlopers belatedly. Some are too far gone in ecstasy or madness to care. Others pause in their indulgences, uncertainty clouding their pleasure-drunk faces. A few hardliners, still blood-crazed, charge at the newcomers with slurred battle cries and weapons raised. The Sisters of Battle move with lethal grace. Bolt pistols bark and chainswords roar, cutting down the first wave of frenzied attackers in spurts of gore. The music falters as screams of pain replace screams of delight. The Inquisitor raises a hand, and a shimmering field of golden light pulses out from a rosarius at her neck. A psychic ward or a manifestation of faith. It slams into 2 of our little cult witches who were attempting to hurl fire at her. They shriek as their own sorcery backlashes and they collapse, smoke curling from empty eye sockets. Ah, a serious player indeed. Time to make my entrance. Can't let the Inquisition have the spotlight all to itself. With an agile leap, I vault over the balcony railing and land in the plaza below, right between the oncoming inquisitorial party and the core of our revelers. I straighten to my full height, letting the lurid lamplight show me in all my profane glory. To the devout servants of the Imperium, I must appear as heresy given flesh. A lithe, towering silhouette of unnatural perfection, slick with rain and blood, eyes alight with mischievous malice. The Inquisitor's gaze snaps onto me, and for a heartbeat all else freezes. I see her take me in. The claws, the curving horns that crown my head, the sinuous tail flicking idly behind me, the aura of palpable temptation that rolls off me. And I watch her lips curl in contempt, but beneath that, in those hardened eyes, I catch a flicker. Yes, there it is. Fear. Good. "In the name of the God Emperor," she proclaims, voice amplified by anger and psychic might to boom over the cacophony. "Cease this obscenity and surrender, demon." Her tone is iron. She levels an ornate bolt pistol at me with rock-steady aim. Around her, the remaining Arbites and Acolytes form up, firing disciplined volleys into the crowd, cutting down any crazed revelers who lunge at them. I cannot help it. I throw back my head and laugh. Surrender? Did she just order a demon of Slaanesh to surrender, as if I'm some naughty child caught stealing sweets? The audacity is simply adorable. Naturally, I answer with a mocking bow, dripping sarcasm. "Ah, milady Inquisitor. Welcome to our little celebration. Won't you join us? I promise the refreshments are to die for." Silence. "Abomination," she snaps. And I feel a wave of psychic force accompany the command, a blast of will as sharp as any blade. It crashes into me like a gale of pure faith. My laughter cuts off as my form flickers, the warped stuff of my body momentarily shaken by the sheer force of her devotion. "Oh, that's smart," I hiss, more annoyed than hurt, steadying myself against the spiritual onslaught. She's not just talk, this one. The Inquisitor strides forward, drawing a gleaming power sword with her other hand, its blade crackling with blue energy. "By the authority of the immortal Emperor," she intones, "I cast you back into the abyss." And with that, she lunges. I'll give her credit. She moves impressively fast for a mortal. Our blades meet. Hers, a field of crackling disruption. Mine, the elongated claws of my hand raised to parry. The impact sends a spray of sparks and raw warp light. Around us, battle is fully joined. I catch glimpses of cultists and inquisitorial troopers slashing and firing at each other in wild melee. One sister of battle is dueling the Eldar cultist. The Xenos' sinuous blade drips venom. The sister's chainsword howls as it clashes against it. Elsewhere, I see our cult leader thrashing in his death throes on the ground with half his head gone. So much for him. It's all very dramatic. But I must keep my focus on the Inquisitor. She drives me back with a flurry of strikes. I give ground deliberately, letting her think she's pushing me toward a corner. In truth, each measured retreat lures her farther from her allies, isolating her with me in a ring of firelight and corpses. She doesn't realize her mistake until it's too late. A classic blunder. Now we're effectively alone amid the chaos, circling each other like duelists on a stage. Her chest heaves with exertion, but her eyes stay locked on mine, hard and cold. "Your ploy fails, Daemon," she spits between clenched teeth. "It ends now." She truly believes she's winning. And to be fair, she's fighting well. I have a sizzling gash along my ribs and another across one arm from where her blade kissed me. It burns with blessed energy, a nauseating sensation like acid on my essence. For the first time today, my smile fades, replaced by a snarl. That weapon could hurt me if I'm careless. Such conviction, I purr, though my voice carries a ragged edge now. "Tell me, Inquisitor, do you really think your Emperor values your self-righteous sacrifice? That he even knows your name?" I bat aside her thrust, aimed for my neck, dancing left. "Look around you. These people are free in their last moments, tasting joys your dour imperium forbids. You could join them. No? Pity." She responds with steel, not words, pressing her attack. I dodge a swing aimed at my skull and retaliate with a lash of my tail, catching her across the thigh. Her carapace armor cracks and she gasps, staggered by the blow, blood seeping from the torn flesh beneath. I dart forward, claws poised for her exposed throat. But she surprises me. A hidden blade juts from her forearm guard, and I impale my left hand on it in my eagerness. Black ichor, my blood for lack of a better word, drips and sizzles on the blade. The Inquisitor uses my momentary recoil to smash the pommel of her sword into the side of my head. Stars explode in my vision and I reel. Her psychic voice slams into my mind again, a wordless roar of hatred that makes my warp-born essence quiver. For a moment, reality itself hardens around me, trying to yank me out like a bad dream. I feel the void of the abyss yawning beneath my feet as banishment threatens. Number. Not this time. With a feral snarl, I rally, pushing back with a surge of sheer will and fury. My own psychic presence, fueled by the ecstasy and agony all around us, crashes against her mental bulwark. I see her eyes widen in shock as she suddenly feels the full, unfettered attention of Slaanesh's servant bearing down on her soul. Her protective wards strain, flicker. For an instant, the Inquisitor's formidable will falters, and that is all I need. I show her, too, the darkest truth she fears, the silence of her god. In the theater of her mind, I snuff out the distant light of the Emperor she clings to, leaving her soul bare and alone. The realization hits like cold knives. There is no divine salvation coming, no answering voice in the void, only me and the echo of her own secret yearnings. Seizing the breach, I flood her senses with sensation. All the delicious extremes she's denied herself her entire life. Every suppressed desire, every secret lust, every craving for comfort or touch or acknowledgement that she buried beneath duty. I drag them up from the depths of her psyche and shove them in her face. Her staunch faith, painstakingly built over decades, cracks like fine porcelain. She screams, a raw animal sound, as the visions and feelings ravage her mind, a vision of herself draped in silk rather than steel, being adored and worshipped by those she has conquered, the phantom caress of lips on her throat and hands sliding down her spine. She's never allowed herself the touch of a lover, but oh, does she want it. The intoxication of forbidden knowledge blossoming in her brain, the secrets of the universe hers for the taking, if only she reaches out. "Get out of my head!" she shrieks, staggering back. Tears of effort and agony streak her cheeks, washing away the grime. She fires her bolt pistol wildly, shots going wide to explode against a statue of some long-dead confessor. I stalk toward her, licking my lips. "But darling," I croon, "I'm only revealing what you really want. All those delightful sins you've locked away, they want out. You want out." She tries to raise her sword again, but her arms are shaking. With a contemptuous flick of my wounded hand, I send a ripple of telekinetic force that yanks the blade clean from her grasp. It skitters across the blood-slick cobbles. The Inquisitor collapses to her knees, clutching her head as if she could claw my influence out of her skull. "Emperor, preserve me," she gasps in a broken whisper. He's not listening, my dear. I glide behind her and gently brush aside a few sweat-soaked strands of her hair that have come loose from her once immaculate bun. She flinches at my touch, but is too weakened to pull away. In the distance, I hear the last ragged gunshots of the skirmish. The revelers turned rioters, despite hideous losses, have swarmed the remaining troops through sheer numbers and mad courage. One sister of battle lies dead in the gutter. The other is nowhere to be seen. Fled or fell, I'm not sure, don't particularly care. The Eldar cultist stands panting over that fallen sister's corpse, evidently victorious. She licks blood from her blade, eyes shining. A handful of my surviving followers begin to gather around the plaza, trembling with exhaustion and exhilaration, their ecstatic high turning into a brutal come-down. Yet, they all keep a respectful distance from me and the Inquisitor. They know this is my prize. "Listen to them," I whisper in the Inquisitor's ear. Faint chants of praise and peals of depraved laughter echo as the remaining cultists and rioters round up a few cowering bystanders. "Your Emperor's loyal subjects. Some are already switching sides, see, trading their hymns for our little hedonistic anthem. The fall is here. You can't stop it. But why should you miss out on the fun?" She whimpers, a tiny shake of the head the only denial she can manage. The mighty Inquisitor is perched on the precipice of despair and temptation. One gentle push and over she goes. I extend one claw and trace it along her cheek, oh so tenderly, like a lover's caress. "I can make the pain go away," I murmur. "All the pain, the loneliness, the endless struggle. Don't you crave peace, even just for a moment? Your Emperor demands you endure and suffer without end. But I offer peace, pleasure, everything you've denied yourself, I can grant." Her breathing is ragged. She mumbles a half-formed prayer under her breath, but her heart isn't in it. I taste the doubt in her, the yearning. "Got you. Just say the word," I hiss, my lips almost brushing her ear. "Say you yield. Embrace the truth of what you are. No one will judge you here, not even your corpse god. He has no power in the paradise we've made tonight." There's a long, fraught pause. Then, with a broken sob, she gives the tiniest nod. I can't. the words barely audible, but I feel the surrender in them. The last light of faith in her eyes gutters out like a dying candle. The mighty Inquisitor has fallen. A slow grin spreads across my face. Did I mention how much I love corrupting the pure? Because throne, it is sublime. Shh, I whisper soothingly as she begins to cry, whether in shame or dark relief or both. I slide an arm around her from behind, an almost gentle embrace. To any onlooker, it might even appear comforting rather than predatory. There now. You've made the right choice. Doesn't that weight off your shoulders feel good? She gives one last shuddering sigh. I feel her tense body finally sag back against me, her will utterly broken. There's terror still in her, yes, and grief, but also, faintly, the first stirrings of a grim kind of relief. I plant a soft kiss on her tear-streaked cheek, tasting the salt. The gesture is half mockery, half oddly tender. Welcome to the winning side, my dear. Our little moment is interrupted by a sudden wail of sirens in the distance, reinforcements from the upper hive, no doubt. PDF riot suppression teams, perhaps even an Astartes dropship if we're truly unlucky. Time to wrap this up. I rise, pulling the Inquisitor up with me like a doll. Her eyes are vacant now, pupils blown wide. She's in shock, mind shattered and ripe for molding. Perhaps I'll keep her as a pet for a while, or maybe gift her to that Eldar cultist as a plaything, a little cross-species poetic justice. So many fun possibilities. Around us, the surviving cultists limp toward me, blood-soaked and half-delirious, awaiting my direction for this next predicament. The rain of blood has slowed to a mere drizzle, as if the warp itself is catching its breath after the orgiastic high. The air reeks of copper, ozone, and sweat. We did what we set out to do. For one glorious night, this hive became a portrait of excess to make the Dark Prince proud. Even if we slip away now, the seeds of corruption have been deeply sown. Every one of those onlookers who tasted true freedom will never be the same. The rot of desire will spread quietly, undermining the Imperium from within. That, my darlings, is victory. I throw my head back and inhale deeply, savoring the bouquet of ruin and rapture that hangs over the plaza. Then I turn to my followers, my friends really, after such a bonding experience, and give a satisfied, devilish smile. Well, I drawl, voice carrying over the patter of blood rain and crackle of distant fires. I'd call that a rousing success. Same time tomorrow. A few ragged cheers answer me, intermixed with hysterical giggles. Even the Inquisitor in my arms emits a soft, broken chuckle through her tears. I do believe she'll work out just fine. Hook, reel, twist. And just like that, another soul, several actually, is claimed for Slaanesh. Honestly, I couldn't have asked for a more splendid day out. Boredom? Not a chance. This is just another day in the life of a demon of the Prince of Pleasure. Endless variety, endless mischief, and the sweet knowledge that even the mightiest of the righteous have their price. Let the blood gods' meathead berserkers hack and roar, the plague fathers' slug-like minions drool, and the changer of ways serpentine schemers double-cross each other into infinity. They don't know how to truly enjoy a conquest. We, on the other hand, make an art of every moment. It's good to be a servant of Slaanesh. Still, even now I already feel the faint stirrings of yearning for the next thrill. Such is the nature of excess. No victory, however exquisite, can sate us forever. And truly, I wouldn't have it any other way. The eternal chase, the never-ending escalation, that's what makes existence fun. Back in the realm of chaos, I emerge through the shimmering tear I came through and set foot again on the shifting, iridescent ground of home. The portal snaps shut behind me with a sound like a wet sigh, or perhaps a sated belch. Home sweet, hellish home. A few of my fellow demons lounge nearby on crystalline divans and puffs of sentient smoke. They glance up, catching the scent of my recent escapade wafting off me, a heady aroma of mortal blood, burnt promises, and spent passion. A sly, golden-skinned courtesan with horns like a ram arches an eyebrow as if to wordlessly ask, "Good hunt?" I answer with a languid smile and a stretch, cracking the joints in my newly sprouted wings. When did those pop out? Must have been during the excitement. The gathered demons titter among themselves, no doubt gossiping already about the little corner of real space that tonight fell under our prince's spell. Let them talk. I've earned a bit of infamy to add to my name. I wander off from the crowd, still buzzing with the afterglow of a job well done. As I pass the twisted obsidian tree from this morning, I notice something new dangling among the cocooned souls, a strange crystalline fruit that wasn't there before, engorged on fresh emotion, a new flavor born of tonight's triumph. I pluck it casually. The thing looks like a glass pomegranate, shimmering with captured delights. When I bite into it, ambrosial juices of raw despair and delirious joy run down my chin. Tastes like collective desperation with a hint of forbidden hope. I'll save the rest for later. I spare a final thought for the world I left behind. By now, the sun will be rising over that hive, shining on streets slick with spent passion and congealing blood. The Imperials will be moving in force to stamp out whatever embers of revolt remain. They might well succeed in dousing the flames. For now. But the true victory is already won. Every soul who surrendered to their desires, even for an hour, will remember. A seed of temptation has been planted in their hearts, one that will take root in secret dreams and guilty longings long after the authorities believe order restored. One night of excess can undo a lifetime of piety. Such is the beginning of the end for that world, slow, subtle, inevitable, and I take a small bow for a job well done. Already the warp around me seems to glow a bit brighter, energized by the feast of sensation we provided. The dim sky above Slaanesh's realm pulses with vivid colors, throbbing in time with the distant aftershocks of our revelry. Even the warp itself glories in our little triumph. No time to bask, though. There are always new pleasures to seek, new souls to entice. I can feel it, that itch for the next indulgence, creeping in even now. It's never ending, this delightful quest of ours, and that's precisely the point. Until next time, dear mortals, when you lie awake yearning for that which is forbidden, know that it is I who whispers in the silence. Pleasant dreams.